So another clue that we have, the conflict was there, and Omar came and threatened to burn the house.
Yeah.
And we know that those people, as Sahih Bukhari said, for 6 months they were coming to the house of, they didn't pay allegiance to Abu Bakr, meaning that they were protesting against the choosing of Abu Bakr. The lady made a wasiyah to Salma, not to let Imam Ali alayhi salam to see the shoulder.
Yes.
So this is again another clue that the shoulder was broken, as it is in the Shia narratives, that the body was injured, and Lady Fatima didn't want to put such psychological, trauma on Imam Ali alayhi salam. What is the sign of being a Rafizi? Speaking things like believing that Omar hurt Lady Fatima salamullah alayha, and because of that she miscarried Muhsin. So you see, anyone to speak about such historical points was accused of being Rafizi. And being Rafizi means being kafir, according to them. It's worse than being kafir.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our Fatemiyah podcast, where we are having an academic conversation with Agha Muhammadi about the historical events that occurred right after the demise of the Prophet and that led to the martyrdom of Sayyidah Zahra salamullahi alayha. In the previous episode, we started our discussion by looking at how history works, and that history is not about going to a hadith book, for example, and seeing, okay, is the sanad sahih or not. That's not really how history works. History is about bringing different pieces of clues together and putting all the different pieces of evidence together to finally get the full picture. And we discussed how many things need to be taken into consideration. One of them is, for example, the beliefs of the people at that time, their mindset, the geography, how people behaved at that time, what did people consider for themselves. In the case of Islamic history, how did the caliphs look at themselves, what were they allowing people to do, what were they allowing people to say. And then from there we discussed as well about how different Sunni scholars, when they attempted to sort of speak up against what happened, or at least shed some light on what happened, they were censored for obvious reasons, because the belief is that the Sahaba are all perfect and righteous companions, and so therefore if there is any kind of evidence that they did anything bad, that should always be censored, and that was a strong religious belief. So Agha Muhammadi, that's where we were left off in the last episode. So building on that, if now as a Sunni Muslim who wants to look at these different pieces of clues and evidence that you are stating exists, and take into consideration that, okay, if any Sunni scholar was to come up and straight up say exactly what happened in full detail, obviously they would be censored and there'd be a lot of backlash. Keeping that in mind, what can you say are the different pieces of evidence that we can piece together to reach this conclusion that we were trying to establish?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yeah, as you mentioned very well, we have to put all these historical context and indicators together, then to try to make a sort of clear picture out of the events that took place. One of the very things that we can find in the books is the conflict which was there between Lady Fatima and Khulafa. You find it in different books that the relation was not nice, and there was a challenge and dispute between them. So Lady Fatima salamullah alayha, as the person who is introduced by the Prophet as Sayyidatu Nisa'i Ahlil Jannah, so she is the lady of the heaven, no doubt about it. The Prophet mentioned this. So such a great personality, she had challenge with these people. As I said, the relation was not a friendly one. We find it in different books. For example, in Sahih Bukhari, volume 4, page 79, the hadith 3093. The hadith mentions the dispute between Lady Fatima and Abu Bakr. Of course, Bukhari mentions it in a way that it is justified. I said if you want to, the ruling is that if you want to mention a hadith, you have to, from those issues related to the Sahaba and Khulafa, you have this right to sort of moderate it, make it smooth, and if I have a chance, I can prove it that how Bukhari and Muslim, especially Bukhari, is the master of this approach. That is one. That could be one of the reasons that he is very respected and honored. I have collected many hadiths about these critical issues that Bukhari narrates, and the other contemporary, sometimes the earliest narrators, narrate the very story. When you put them together, like the way, for example, Muhammad ibn Sa'd narrates, or the others narrate, the earliest narrators, and the way that Bukhari narrates it, when you put it together, you find that over the very sensitive issues, the narration of Bukhari is very moderate, omitted or sort of softened in a way that it's not going to be a kind of insult to those figures. I mean, bearing all these things in mind, so when we read the hadith, doesn't mean that all parts of the hadith we want to sort of recognize, because I said it was sort of legitimate act to add things to the hadith. Then the hadith should be can be narrated. So those areas, those parts which are against the Khulafa, against the Sahaba, we can accept it, because this is what we call it إقرار الأغلاء على أنفسهم. This is like, confession against your own beliefs. But when it is justified, so we don't reject it, but at least we are sort of we observe precaution about it, not to accept it easily. We accept it when we put all different factors together, if they go along with.
Perhaps maybe you can share some of these different pieces that you're saying we put together.
For example, he says over the issue of fadak, when Abu Bakr deprived lady from the fadak and the income to come from fadak, then Bukhari, according to the narration of Bukhari, he says فَحَجَرَتْ أَبَا بَكْرٍ فَلَمْ تَزَلْ مُهَاجَرَتُهُ حَتَّى تُوَفِّيَتْ. Lady sort of abandoned and cut off with Abu Bakr, and she was in such kind of approach and state against Abu Bakr till the moment of her demise. So lady passed away while she was angry and disappointed with what Abu Bakr did. And he says, "Ba'ashat ba'da Rasulullah sittata ashhur." If we accept this narration, for at least for 6 months, Lady Fatima was alive, and within the 6 months, Lady didn't have a good relation with Abu Bakr, while Abu Bakr was the Khalifa. And according to what they say, he was the Imam of the Muslims. And bear in mind the hadith that the Prophet said, if any person dies and he doesn't have, or she doesn't have the bay'ah and allegiance of an Imam on his shoulders, such a person's death is the death of Jahiliyyah and ignorance. So how come that she is the lady of the heaven, not to pay allegiance according to narration of Bukhari for 6 months? So this itself means that there is something.
Yes.
Things were not nice the way that the others try to say. Then later on he says, Abu Bakr says, لَسْتُ تَارِكًا شَيْئًا كَانَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ يَأْمَلُ بِهِ. I will not abandon the sunnah of the Prophet. So this means that lady was insisting on something which was illegal, was irreligious. Yeah. So Lady Fatima was insisting on something haram, and Abu Bakr was abandoning and saying that no, I will do whatever the Prophet did.
Yeah.
So this itself is to remove legitimacy of one of these sides. Yeah. whether to say Lady Fatima Salamullah alayha was demanding something haram, or Abu Bakr was performing something haram.
Yeah.
Now this is up to you to choose which one. In another place again in Sahih Bukhari, when he talks about the issue of the Prophet's demise and Lady Fatima Salamullah alayha, again he mentions that وَلَمْ يَكُنْ يُبَايِئْ تِلْكَ الْأَشْهُرِ. This is about Imam Ali alayhi salam, the time that Lady Fatima was alive. He says she was alive for 6 months, and within the 6 months Imam Ali didn't pay allegiance to Abu Bakr. So not only Lady Fatima, even Imam Ali alayhi salam, they didn't pay allegiance to Abu Bakr. So there are conflicts there, and there are issues among them. Again in Sahih Bukhari, volume 5, page 139, he mentions the story that Lady Fatima Salamullah alayha was angry with Abu Bakr, فهجرته فلم تكلمه حتى توفيت. Till the moment of her demise, she didn't talk to Abu Bakr. فلما توفيت دفنها زوجها علي ليلا. When Lady Fatima passed away, Imam Ali alayhi salam buried her at night. So you have to ask you the question, why should Imam Ali bury Lady Fatima at night? While Imam Ali didn't want those people to participate in the funeral of Lady Fatima Salamullah alayha.
Well, I mean, don't you think like a Sunni Muslim can respond and say, oh, maybe he wanted to bury her at night because of, like, for example, hijab issues. Maybe because she was somebody who was very modest and she didn't like to come out in public and in front of the non-mahrams. So in that sense, it made sense that Imam Ali would bury her at night so that there are no men can come and observe her funeral.
Yeah. The point is that we are not speaking in vacuum. You know, we are not speaking in vacuum in a sense that to say that if there was nothing, if there was no conflict, if there was no critical issue, we could say such a thing. But even Bukhari, the way that he narrates this story, he says that she cut off with the khulafa, didn't talk to them, and there was a kind of such approach from lady towards khulafa, and when she passed away, Ali buried her at night. So even the way that Bukhari narrates the story, it shows that, yes, I said if it was in vacuum, this was one of the possibilities. But when you put those qara'in and the context together, when you put the event in its space, then you see that it is more than just hijab. Otherwise, lady, she herself, she came to masjid and delivered lecture in masjid before people. Yes, of course, the ladies should observe hijab, but there is a time that, you know, while you are of course wearing hijab, you have to come to public and speak to men to defend the truth. And so for the lady, the concern of and the issue of burying at night is not just because a lady didn't want to observe hijab. Otherwise, we see that from Sahaba, people like Salman, people like Abu Zar, very close people to Ahlul Bayt, they were there. They participated in the funeral, and they were not mahram to Lady Fatima Salamullah alayha. So if it was the matter of being mahram or non-mahram, none of those people should be there. But the issue, I said, when you put it in the context, you see that it's beyond those stories.
So basically, to summarize, you're saying, okay, we can see, okay, there's a conflict. Both Imam Ali and Hazrat Zahra are not giving legitimacy to their caliphate of Abu Bakr and Umar. There is the burial at night. There's clearly something is happening over here.
And again, in the continuation of the hadith, the hadith in the Sahih Bukhari, the very hadith says that فَلَمَّا تُوَفِّيَتْ اسْتَنْكَرَ عَلِيٌّ وُجُوهَ النَّاسِ فَالْتَمَسَ مُصَالَحَةَ أَبِي بَكْرَ وَمُوَيَّدَهُ. So here I said they make it sort of smooth, the hadith. He says that when Lady Fatima passed away, Imam Ali alayhi salam, while Lady Fatima was there, she was a great support for Imam Ali. After the lady, Imam Ali had no support, and people scattered from around Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he was lonely. And at that time, Imam Ali alayhi salam sort of compromised with Abu Bakr. And he said that I am ready for negotiation. But he said, فَأَرْسَلَ إِلَىٰ أَبِي بَكْرٍ. Imam Ali sent, he says, فَلَمَّا تَوَفِّيَتْ اسْتَنْكَرَ عَلِيٌّ وُجُوهَ النَّاسِ. So there was a kind of atmosphere that after Lady Fatima, Imam Ali lost the support of Lady, and this way he was very lonely among the people. So people, they were not respecting him. He was sort of lonely and sort of isolated. So he decided to have a kind of negotiation with Abu Bakr. So the hadith says that Imam Ali sent someone for Abu Bakr to talk to him, and but he had a condition. He says, فأرسل إلى أبي بكر أن ائتنا ولا يأتنا أحد معك كراهية لمحزر عمر. Imam said, you can come to us to talk, but do not bring anyone with you. And Bukhari says this was because he didn't want Omar to be with him. Ali didn't want to see Omar. So the question is that the one who, if it's over the issue of fadak, if it's over the issue of khilafah, so if you hate someone, primarily it should be Abu Bakr.
Yeah.
But the question is that why Ali is ready to meet Abu Bakr but not Omar? Again, this is the question. What happened? You have to ask this question.
Yeah.
I said, when you put all these questions together, you will come to a reasonable answer. The clues I said.
Yeah.
Why should Ali alayhi salam accept coming of Abu Bakr but not Umar?
Yeah.
According to Bukhari. فقال عمر لا والله لا تدخل عليهم وحدك. No, I will not let you go alone. I will come with you. So Omar came, and all the stories that is there. Then at the end of the hadith he says وكان المسلمون إلى علي قريبا حين راجع الأمر المعروف. And after Ali paid allegiance to Abu Bakr and did the right thing, then people were nice to Ali again. So here you have to question, were people on the right path that 6 months that Imam Ali didn't pay allegiance? Or Ali was there on the right path?
Yeah.
Which one? According to all those hadiths, the Sahih hadiths, they have mentioned in their sources that the Prophet said, Aliyun ma'al haq wal haqqu ma Ali. Imam Ali is with the truth and truth is with Ali. Ali is not going to separate the truth. And within that 6 months, Ali didn't pay allegiance, and because of that, people abandoned him. Yeah. And after 6 months, when he paid allegiance, according to this narration at least, according to the very narration of Sahih Bukhari, after 6 months, when he paid allegiance, then people returned back to Ali. Now, which side should be accepted as the right thing? What is the measure? What is the criteria here? We take the criterion from the Prophet ﷺ, that according to very authentic hadiths in Shia and Sunni sources, the measure among Sahaba is Imam Ali alayhi salam, and haq and truth is with Ali. So one point here is that we find there was a kind of conflict and dispute between Lady Fatima and Khulafa, and there are issues among them.
Yes,
so things were not happening nicely.
Yeah.
Another point we find in those hadiths, in the sources of Ahlul Sunnah, is the hadiths talking about Umar threatening to burn the house of Lady Fatima. Yeah. The time that Imam Ali alayhi salam was not paying allegiance, there were people with Imam Ali alayhi salam, people like Zubayr and the others, who didn't want to pay allegiance to Abu Bakr. And they found it their very right not to pay allegiance. So they were frequent to the house of Lady Fatima because of the special position Lady Fatima had. Because, first of all, she was the only remnant from the children of the Prophet. She was considered of a great position. She was introduced by the Prophet as Sayyidatu Nisa'i Ahlil Jannah. She was the lady of the heaven. And in Arab culture, she was a woman. You know, in the Arab culture, it's a shame to fight a woman. Yeah. It's a shame for a man to beat a woman, to fight a woman. Usually, even if they were, great warriors, they wouldn't challenge
women.
a woman.
Yes.
It was a shame
Yeah.
because they considered them to be weak.
Yes.
And for man, it's not good to fight a woman.
Yes.
So, being the daughter of the Prophet, being a woman, these issues, these features which were there, could give a specific position to Lady Fatima that she could do something that the others couldn't do. Even if Imam Ali alayhi salam, with all the virtues and merits that he had, he was about to openly and harshly strictly stand against them, they could accuse him and kill him. But Lady Fatima had a specific position. So because of that, circumstances, Lady Fatima was the axis, and her house was the axis of the resistance against the what those people found it wrong, a kind of deviation from the right path of the Prophet and abandoning the will and the command of the Prophet. So Ibn Abi Shayba mentions that these people were coming to the house of Lady Fatima salamullah alayha. فَيُشَاوِرَانَهَا وَيَرْتَجِعُونَ فِي أَمْرِهِمْ. They used to come to the house of lady and consult the lady and be frequent to her. فلما بلغ ذلك عمر بن الخطاب خرج حتى دخل على فاطمة. When Umar heard about it, he went to Lady Fatima فقال يا بنت رسول الله والله ما من أحد أحب إلينا من أبيك. I swear to Allah, there was no one as beloved to us as your father. وما من أحد أحب إلينا بعد أبيك منك. I mean the position of Lady Fatima. He declared that now, after your father, no one is as beloved as you. But he said, وَأَيْمُ اللَّهِ مَاذَا لَكْ مَاذَا كَبِمَّانِئِ. But all these things is not going to stop me. إن اجتمع هؤلاء النفر عندك أن أمرتهم أن يحرق عليهم البيت. But with all these things, it's not going to stop me to command to burn the house. So if those people are going to come to you again, I will burn the house. So another clue that we have, the conflict was there, and Omar came and threatened to burn the house. And we know that those people, as Sahih Bukhari said, for 6 months they were coming to the house of, they didn't pay allegiance to Abu Bakr, meaning that they were protesting against the choosing of Abu Bakr, and they were there. And so what happens? Do you see any historical fact to say that Umar swore to Allah and those people were coming to the house? So Umar whether had to burn the house or just to break the qasam and the swearing that he had and to pay the kafara for to breaking and breaching the swear that he had. But we don't find any clue about it. We don't find any hadith about it. We don't find any narration to say that, of course, Umar swore to Allah to do that, but he didn't do that, and instead he paid such a kafara. So, what is the logical outcome of this when you think about it is that he practiced what he promised.
But don't you think like somebody can say, let's say he broke the oath, he had to pay the kafara. Do you think that would be something that would be shown in history books? Like it seems like something a very mundane thing that he paid a kafara, for example. Is it something that we can expect to see in history books had it happened? It seems like a very tiny thing. To pay a kafara. Why would that come in history books?
No, when we look at the history, we see that even because this is related to this story, the issue, the swearing, is related to this story. It is not mentioned. I mean, as a historian, you see that there is no record of that. And there is no record of burning the house in their books. So, when it is not mentioned, I said this can be a kind of indicator, of course. This is not a proof that he burnt the house. These are indicators that when you put all of them together, they lead you to a kind of a decision, and to all of them shed a little bit of light over the picture. So we see that there is no mention of what happened, but there is the mention of swearing to burn the house of Lady Fatima if those people are going to come to her house again. So The hadith, the chain of narration, all people are reliable people. There is no problem with the chain of narration, and the content is very strong.
And I think Sunni scholars, like, they accept until this point, right? Nobody would really reject that he at least threatened to burn the house.
Yeah, so no doubt that Umar threatened to burn the house. Another clue is that we find it in books like Tarikh Tabari. In Tarikh Tabari, he narrates the story of Abu Bakr at the last days of his life. And in that story, we see that Abu Bakr is sort of being regretful and sorry for specific things he did. So he says, there are 3 things I did, and I wish that I hadn't done those things. One of them, the first one that he mentions, فَوَدَدْتُ أَنِّي لَمْ أَكْشَفْ بَيْتَ فَاطِمَةَ عَنْ شَيْءٍ وَإِنْ كَانُوا قَدْ غَلَّغُوهُ عَلَى الْحَرَبِ. I wish we didn't break in the house of Fatima, even if they had closed the doors to people for fight against us. So here Abu Bakr is regretting about breaking the house of Lady Fatima. So they broke in the house of Lady Fatima according to his narration. Umar threatened, and now Abu Bakr is regretful about it. So when you put these clues together, you see that actually the warning or the threatening that Umar had was fulfilled. And because of that, because it was under the command of Abu Bakr, Abu Bakr is regretful that it was under my command. That's why he says, I wish I wouldn't break in the house of Lady Fatima, even if the door was closed to prepare for fight against me. So this hadith itself, and again the chain of narration are thiqat, are reliable people, it shows that there was a breaking, and so the issue of Lady Fatima's immediate demise after the Prophet, being in kind of dissatisfaction, in a conflict with Khulafa, Omar coming and threatening to break in the house and burn the house, and now Abu Bakr is talking about the issue of breaking in the house and being sorry and regretful about it. So when you put them together, you can come to this conclusion that something had happened.
Yes.
And so the scenario will be sort of clear for us.
Yes.
That what kind of story was there. And beside it, we find things that show that there was a kind of injury in the body of Lady Fatima when she passed away. And so she didn't die in a natural death by a disease or sickness, or being sorry after the what do you call it, sadness after the demise of the Prophet.
So where can we get that from? You're saying from Sunni books we can get that?
Yeah, in different sources we can find it. For example, Ibn Sa'd in Tabaqatul Kubra, volume 8, page 27, he mentions the story an Abi Rafi and Abiha and Salma. Salma is narrating the story. قالت مرزت فاطمة بنت رسول الله. Fatima was sick, and when she passed away, I went there. Ali was there, and Ali told me that you pour water, and I washed and do ghusl to the body of Lady Fatima. I did so, and Ali alayhi salam was giving ghusl. ثم قالت اجعلي فراشي وسط البيت. So she's referring to the wasiyah of Lady Fatima salamullah alayha, that Lady Fatima made a wasiyah to Imam Ali that lay my bed in the middle of the house. فجعلته فاستجأت عليه واستقبلت القبلة ثم قالت لي يا أمه إني مقبوضة الساعة. She says that before the demise, Lady Fatima talked to me and said, "Oh mother, I will leave this world within a moment. فقد اغتسلت فلا يكشفن أحد لي كتفا." And do not let anyone to remove the clothing from my shoulder. فماتت فجاء علي فأخبرته فقال لا والله لا يكشف لها أحد كتفا فاحتملها فدفنها بغسلها ذلك. So she says that while she was alive, she asked to perform a ghusl on her, and then she didn't want her shoulder to be exposed. Nobody to see her shoulder. What was on the shoulder? Again, another clue. What was on the shoulder that, of course, non-mahram was not to see her body. Yes. And somebody to see, it means Imam Ali and the children. Yes. So lady made a wasiyah to Salma, not to let Imam Ali alayhi salam to see the shoulder. Yes. So this is again another clue that the shoulder was broken, as it is in the Shia narratives, that the body was injured, and Lady Fatima didn't want to put such psychological, trauma on Imam Ali alayhi salam. In Musnad Ahmad Hanbal mentions in volume 45, page 588. Again, he mentions the various story from Asma, that here he says, Ya umma inni maghbuzatun al-an wa tatahhartu al-an fala yakshifuni ahadun. So he says Ahmad Hanbal omitted that katif from the narration. Usually when you look at the historical books, you see that Ibn Sa'd in Tabaqat is very outspoken in comparison to the others. Yes. So because the content and the connotation is very strong in the concept, in the term katif and the shoulder, this is omitted by Ahmad Hanbal here. And he said, فَلَا يَكْشِفُنِي أَحَدٌ, nobody may remove the veil from me, as if it is about a hijab or something. Yes. So I said the approach that to smooth and justify the narrations in a way that is not gonna hurt the picture.
True. So I think, like, from what you've presented, I think for a fair-minded observer, I think at the very minimum they can see that for sure, okay, it's not all happy and rosy, and definitely this gives a very dark picture, and at least from the Sunni sources, what seems to be plausible, if not certain, is that, okay, there was this conflict that happened, there was not a good relation between Lady Fatima and the caliphs, the threat did happen, the Umar did threaten to burn down the house, and then we see that, for example, when she passes away, her body does have some signs of not having a natural death. Clearly there is some trauma or some injury that has happened. Would you say that's what the limits are of using the Sunni sources, or can you prove anything more than that using Sunni sources?
No, mainly these are the main points which are mentioned in the Sunni sources, and anything beyond it would be rejected. Nazam Mu'tazili is one of the outstanding figures in the Sunni world. Nazam also is among those people who used to believe that they attacked the house, and he believed that lady had miscarried her son Muhsin because of the injury that she received when they attacked the house and actually kicked lady in her stomach.
Do you have a reference for that?
In Al-Wafi bil-Wafiyat, As-Safedi mentions this in volume 6, page 15. So he says he's rejecting and bad-mouthing, actually slandering Nazam, claiming that Nazam was an evil person. So he's mentioning the reasons why Nazam is not an acceptable figure and he's a bad person. One of the reasons being ميله إلى الرفس, because he has a tendency towards rafs and being rafizi. Why he is rafizi? Because he believed وقال إن عمر ضرب بطن فاطمة يوم البيعة حتى ألغت محصنا من بطنها. What is the sign of being a rafizi? Speaking things like believing that Umar hurt Lady Fatima salamullah alayha, and because of that she miscarried Muhsin. So you see, anyone to speak about such historical points
Yes.
was accused of being Rafizi. And being Rafizi means being kafir, according to them. It's worse than being kafir. So you see that I said you shouldn't expect ulama to openly come and talk about what they believed, because to narrate such a thing was enough to, even if you are Nazam, such a great, thinker, a great mutakallim, a great philosopher, a great thinker, with all those positions that he has, just to speak something ugly, and not just to narrate something like that, was enough to lose all your position. So a person like Nazam will be a kind of evil character for narrating such thing. This is why a person like Jahiz, another outstanding Sunni scholar, he says Nazam was a great person and he admires him so much. And so a person like Nazam narrating such a story, I said Ibn Abidar in the previous session.
Yes.
Also, he used to believe this, and he used to mention this a lot, that they attacked lady and she miscarried Mohsen. And because of that, you see that they call him Shaykhun Zal. While his life he was in the straight path, but narrating and believing in such a thing, he became a misguided, crooked, evil character. So when you put all these parts together, you see that, of course, the very clear image of the story is mentioned with more details in the book Al-Imamat and Wilayat by Ibn Qutayba. I didn't mention the story from Ibn Qutayba because, I just wanted to mention from the very authentic sources that there is no doubt about their authenticity. Otherwise, there are sources, but all of these sources, they have tried to put some, doubts and questions about the authenticity, to say that no, this book, who is Ibn Qutayba? Maybe he's not, this Ibn Qutayba is who? So they try to make it sort of issue of doubt, issue of hesitation, to accuse of some, unclarity, so they can reject it. But the sources I mentioned in brief are the sources that there is no doubt about their authenticity, and putting them together can give you an image of what happened at that time.
So would it be correct to say that
once again, you have to bear in mind that you cannot expect more than this.
Yes.
I said in the previous session, more than this is not allowed to be mentioned.
Yes.
Because as a Sunni scholar, your duty is to omit and delete whatever to go beyond this.
True. Yeah. So even having those expectations in mind, would you say then, therefore, it's correct that, okay, if you are a Sunni Muslim, you are trying to do your research, would it be correct to say that, okay, if I go first to people like Ibn Qutayba and these other scholars that supposedly they've been called dhal and misguided, then you'll be like, I don't know, maybe what they're saying is wrong. But now if I've built this solid foundation from the authentic sources, I've put the different pieces together, after having this solid core of using authentic sources, now if I refer to these other scholars like Ibn Qutayba, in light of this, actually, that becomes a stronger piece of evidence now, because now it's no longer that I'm looking at them as, okay, some misguided scholar. I'm saying, actually, no, actually what they're saying seems to be in line with what the authentic sources are saying. So it's not that even if I believe, okay, their sources are weak or there's doubts about them, sure, okay, that might raise some questions on them. But because we have this now supposedly authentic corpus, and that is supporting this, so automatically that epistemically it grants that much more weight now. And now that can also be added to the puzzle.
That's true. Even by that foundation, you can go to other schools within Islam, like Shia, Zaydi Shia, 12 Imami Shia, and to study the story in their books through that guidance and that light, in order to find out what exactly happened at that time.
So thank you very much for showing us what the Sunni books have, and I think once we have this strong corpus from the main authentic Shia Sunni books, and we add also the other later books that have some questions about them, that does grant it more weight. And so, inshallah, we want to now move past that and look into what the other schools of thoughts are saying. So we want to see what the Shias are saying, but unfortunately we have run out of time today. So inshallah, from the next episode, hopefully we want to get into what the Shia books are saying and see are they also in line with this narrative that we have come up with from the Sunni books. So I want to thank you so much for your time and for sharing your knowledge. And to all our viewers, inshallah, please do subscribe to our channel. Inshallah, hopefully you benefited a lot from this episode, and we shall inshallah continue the same kind of conversations in the next episode as well. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.